The early evening rush at the Golden Leaf Hotel restaurant had just begun to settle. Soft lighting bathed the cream-colored walls and dark wooden furniture in a warm glow. The elegant dining area still buzzed with conversation, but the frantic pace of the dinner service had slowed enough for Anna to catch her breath. Anna tucked a loose strand of her dark hair back into her neat bun as she balanced 3 plates of half-eaten desserts on her forearm. 28 years old with tired eyes that still managed to smile, she had been working at this upscale restaurant for almost 5 years now. Not because she loved it, but because the generous tips helped pay for her grandmother's medical bills and her younger sister's college textbooks. Every time she passed the grand piano that sat in the corner of the dining room, Anna felt a small tug in her chest. The beautiful instrument, with its polished black surface and ivory keys, seemed to watch her as she hurried between tables. It had been years since her fingers had touched piano keys, though there was a time when those keys had felt more natural to her than anything else in the world. "Table 12 needs their check," called Lee, the floor manager, as he swept past Anna with a tray of champagne flutes. "And keep an eye on table 7. Mr. Winters is one of our most important guests." Anna glanced toward table 7, where a group of 5 people sat surrounded by empty wine bottles and scattered appetizer plates. At the center of the group was a man in his 50s with salt and pepper hair and a tailored suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent. Mr. Winters was a tech billionaire who had made his fortune developing software that most people used every day. Known for being unpredictable and sometimes difficult, he was also known for leaving enormous tips when he was pleased. "I've got it," Anna replied, quickly dropping off the dirty plates and pulling out her notepad. She smoothed down her black uniform and put on her best professional smile before approaching table 7. "How is everything this evening?" she asked, her voice warm and attentive. Mr. Winters looked up from his conversation, his eyes taking a moment to focus on her. "The food is excellent," he said, then frowned slightly. "But I was expecting some entertainment tonight. Doesn't this place usually have someone playing that?" He gestured toward the grand piano. "Our pianist called in sick tonight, sir," Anna explained. "We usually have live music on weekends." Mr. Winters leaned back in his chair, swirling the amber liquid in his glass thoughtfully. "That's a shame. A good meal deserves good music." He turned to the woman beside him, a business associate with sharp eyes and an even sharper suit. "Don't you think, Vivian?" "Absolutely," Vivian agreed. "Though finding decent piano players these days is challenging. Most young people prefer those electronic DJ setups." Mr. Winters suddenly sat up straighter, a spark of interest lighting up his face. "I wonder," he began, his voice growing louder as he looked around the restaurant. Several nearby diners glanced over, curious about the commotion. "I wonder if anyone in this place can actually play that thing." Anna started to back away, sensing that this might be heading in an uncomfortable direction. Rich people sometimes got ideas in their heads, especially after a few drinks, and those ideas often meant extra work for the staff. "You there," Mr. Winters called, stopping Anna in her tracks. "Waitress." Anna turned back, her smile fixed in place. "Yes, sir? What do you think? Is there anyone here who could play us a tune? The chef, maybe, or one of the busboys?" His tone wasn't unkind, just curious and slightly amused. "I'm not sure, sir. I can ask the manager if you'd like," Anna offered politely. Mr. Winters waved his hand dismissively. "No need for that." He stood up suddenly, his chair scraping against the hardwood floor. The restaurant grew quieter as people noticed the famous billionaire on his feet. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced, his voice carrying throughout the dining room, "I find myself disappointed by the lack of music this evening." He gestured grandly toward the piano. "That beautiful instrument is sitting there collecting dust, and I think that's a crime." Anna froze, unsure what to do. Lee had appeared by the kitchen doors, watching with a nervous expression. The hotel manager would not be happy if Mr. Winters caused a scene. "So I'm making an offer," Mr. Winters continued. $1,000 cash to anyone in this restaurant who can play that piano well enough to impress me." He pulled out his wallet and counted out 10 crisp $100 bills, placing them on the table with a flourish. "Any takers?" The restaurant fell silent. Diners looked at each other, some embarrassed, others amused. A few younger customers whispered excitedly, but no one stood up. "Come now," Mr. Winters pressed. "Surely someone here has some talent." Anna's heart began to pound. The piano seemed to call to her from across the room, bringing back memories she had tried so hard to bury. Memories of her childhood home, of the upright piano her parents had sacrificed so much to buy, of the hours she had spent practicing until her fingers ached. "I studied at the music academy," she heard herself say, the words coming out before she could stop them. All eyes turned to her, including Mr. Winters's surprised gaze. "You?" he asked, looking her up and down as if seeing her for the first time. "You play?" Anna's cheeks flushed hot with embarrassment. Why had she spoken up? It had been nearly 10 years since she had performed for anyone. Since the accident that had taken her parents, leaving her as the sole provider for her grandmother and sister. "I used to," she admitted, wishing she could take back her words. "A long time ago." Mr. Winters smiled, a genuine expression that transformed his serious face. "Well then," he said, gesturing toward the piano. "Let's hear what you've got." Anna looked desperately toward Lee, who seemed equally shocked. After a moment's hesitation, he gave her a small nod. "Go ahead, Anna," he said quietly. "Take 5 minutes." The restaurant had gone completely silent now. Anna felt dizzy as she slowly made her way toward the piano, aware of every eye following her movement. She hadn't played in public since she was 18, hadn't played at all in almost 5 years. The last time had been at her sister's high school graduation, on an old keyboard they'd found at a thrift shop. As she approached the grand piano, its magnificent presence seemed almost intimidating. This was a concert-quality instrument worth tens of thousands of dollars. Anna gently lifted the cover from the keys, revealing the perfect row of white and black that had once been as familiar to her as her own reflection. She sat down on the bench, adjusting its height with practiced movements that came back to her automatically. Her hands were shaking slightly as she positioned them above the keys. What should she play? Her mind raced through the pieces she had once known by heart. Would her fingers remember what her mind had tried to forget? "Whenever you're ready," Mr. Winters called out, his tone somewhere between encouraging and challenging. Anna closed her eyes and took a deep breath. She thought of her parents, who had worked extra jobs to pay for her lessons. She thought of her old teacher, who had called her a once-in-a-generation talent. She thought of the acceptance letter to the prestigious music conservatory that she had received just days before the accident. The letter she had folded up and put away in a box of memories under her bed. Then, she began to play. Her fingers pressed down on the keys tentatively at first, finding their way through the opening notes of Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata. The gentle, flowing melody filled the restaurant, so quiet you could hear the soft pedal work of her foot. For the first few measures, Anna played cautiously, getting a feel for the instrument. But then something shifted. It was as if a door long closed had suddenly been flung open. Her fingers remembered. They remembered everything. The music grew stronger, more confident. Anna's body swayed slightly as she gave herself over to the piece, her hands moving across the keys with increasing speed and precision. The haunting melody wrapped around the restaurant, drawing everyone into its spell. As she played, the years of struggle and sacrifice faded away. She was no longer Anna the waitress, worrying about tips and bills and her next shift. She was just a musician, doing what she had been born to do. When the final notes of the first movement faded, there was a moment of complete silence. Anna kept her eyes closed, afraid to break the spell, afraid to see the judgment on the faces watching her. Then, unexpectedly, Mr. Winters started to clap. Others joined in, the applause growing until it filled the restaurant. Anna finally opened her eyes to see something she never expected, the entire dining room on their feet, giving her a standing ovation. Mr. Winters approached the piano, his expression one of genuine amazement. "That was just the beginning, wasn't it?" he asked quietly. "You have more to show us." Anna's hands, steady now, hovered over the keys. For the first time in years, she felt truly alive. "Yes," she whispered. I do." The applause still echoed in Anna's ears as she sat at the piano, her fingers lightly resting on the keys. The restaurant remained hushed, as if everyone was holding their breath, waiting for what would come next. Mr. Winters stood beside the piano, the look of surprise on his face now replaced with intense curiosity. "Where did you learn to play like that?" he asked, his voice low enough that only Anna could hear. Anna swallowed hard, memories washing over her like waves. "My parents started me on lessons when I was 5, she said softly. "My mother cleaned houses and my father drove a delivery truck. They saved for months to buy me an old upright piano." As she spoke, her fingers began to move again, almost of their own accord, playing a gentle, flowing melody underneath her words. It was something she used to do as a child, talk and play at the same time, as if the music were simply an extension of her voice. "My teacher, Mrs. Chen, said I had a gift," Anna continued, the melody growing more complex as her confidence returned. "She gave me extra lessons for free when my parents couldn't afford them anymore. By the time I was 16, I was practicing 4 hours every day." Mr. Winters leaned against the piano, truly listening. The rest of his dinner party had gathered around, along with several other diners who had left their tables to move closer to the music. Lee, the floor manager, stood by the kitchen door with his arms crossed, looking both worried and proud. "What happened?" Mr. Winters asked gently. "Someone with your talent should be playing concert halls, not carrying dinner plates." The question hit Anna like a physical blow. Her hand stumbled briefly over the keys before finding their rhythm again. She had asked herself the same question countless times over the years. "Life happened," she said simply. "My parents died in a car accident 10 years ago. I was 18, just accepted to the National Conservatory on a full scholarship." Her voice grew quieter. "My grandmother raised me, and she was too old to take care of my little sister alone. Someone had to pay the bills." As she spoke, Anna's playing changed. The light, flowing melody transformed into something deeper and more sorrowful, Chopin's Nocturne in C minor. The haunting notes filled the restaurant, carrying the weight of her unspoken grief, the dreams she had set aside. An older woman at a nearby table dabbed at her eyes with a napkin. A young couple held hands tightly across their table, moved by both the music and the story behind it. Even the kitchen staff had paused their work, standing in the doorway to listen. "So you gave it all up," Mr. Winters said. It wasn't a question. Anna nodded, her eyes focused on her hands as they moved across the keys. "The conservatory wouldn't defer my scholarship. I tried to keep playing at first, but between 2 jobs and taking care of my sister and grandmother." She shook her head. "Eventually, it was just too painful to touch the piano at all, like visiting an old friend I'd abandoned." The Nocturne reached its emotional peak, Anna's hands coaxing a depth of feeling from the instrument that seemed impossible given how long she had been away from it. The room was so quiet that the soft pedal work of her foot could be heard during the pauses between notes. "When was the last time you played?" asked Vivian, the sharp-eyed business associate who had been sitting next to Mr. Winters at dinner. "Really, played like this?" Anna's hands continued moving as she thought. "Almost 8 years ago. I gave a small recital at my sister's high school to help raise money for their music program. After that, just occasional Christmas carols or happy birthday on an old keyboard we found at a thrift store." Mr. Winters exchanged a meaningful glance with Vivian, something unspoken passing between them. Anna was too lost in the music to notice. As the Nocturne came to its gentle conclusion, Anna's hands finally stilled. The silence that followed felt sacred somehow, no one wanting to break the spell. Then Mr. Winters straightened up, clapping his hands together once as if coming to a decision. "Play something else," he said. "Something that shows your range, something that made your teachers take notice." Anna looked up at him, surprised by the request but also feeling a strange sense of liberation. It had been so long since anyone had asked her to really play, to show what she could do. Most of her adult life had been spent trying to be invisible, efficient, someone who brought food and cleared plates without being noticed. "Are you sure?" she asked. "It's getting late, and you probably want to finish your dinner." Mr. Winters waved away her concern. Dinner can wait. Music like yours comes along rarely. He glanced around the restaurant, where not a single person had made a move to leave. I think everyone here would agree. Several diners nodded in encouragement. An elderly man called out, "Please play more, dear." A mother with 2 teenagers at a corner table gave Anna a thumbs up. For the first time that evening, Anna smiled, really smiled, the kind of smile that reached her eyes and lightened the weariness in her face. She flexed her fingers and took a deep breath. "This piece got me my scholarship," she said, and launched into Liszt's Hungarian Rhapsody No. 2. The change was immediate and dramatic. Gone was the gentle, emotional playing of before. This was technical brilliance. Hands flying across the keys at impossible speeds, dramatic shifts in tempo and volume, fingers stretching to reach difficult chords. This was music that demanded attention, that showcased years of disciplined practice and natural talent. The restaurant staff stopped pretending to work. The chef emerged from the kitchen, wiping his hands on his apron, drawn by the virtuoso performance. Even the busboys and dishwashers crowded into the doorway, eyes wide with astonishment. Anna's body swayed with the music, completely lost in the performance. Her face transformed, the tired waitress vanishing, replaced by the concert pianist she might have become. Her hands were a blur at times, the music growing increasingly complex as the piece progressed. When she hit the famous Friska section, with its rapid-fire notes and dramatic runs up and down the keyboard, gasps could be heard throughout the restaurant. Mr. Winters stood perfectly still, his expression a mixture of awe and something else, something that looked almost like purpose. By the time Anna reached the thunderous conclusion, every person in the restaurant was completely captivated. The final chords rang out, powerful and triumphant, and Anna's hands finally lifted from the keys, trembling slightly from the exertion and emotion. The silence lasted only a heartbeat before the room erupted in wild applause. People stood, cheering, and whistling. A woman near the back shouted, "Bravo!" Several diners were filming with their phones, capturing the extraordinary moment. Anna sat frozen, overwhelmed by the response. It had been so long since she had felt this, the rush of a performance, the connection with an audience, the pure joy of making music without constraint. Tears welled up in her eyes, and she quickly wiped them away with the back of her hand. Mr. Winters was clapping slowly, deliberately, his eyes never leaving Anna's face. When the applause finally began to die down, he stepped forward and placed a hand on her shoulder. "That," he said firmly, "was worth far more than $1,000. He reached into his pocket and pulled out his wallet again. This time he counted out $200 bills and placed them on top of the piano. "Consider this a down payment," he said, his voice low but intense. "We need to talk after you finish your shift." Anna stared at the money, then up at Mr. Winters. "A down payment for what?" she asked, confusion cutting through her emotional haze. "For your future," he replied simply. He handed her a business card with a phone number handwritten on the back. "I have connections at the symphony orchestra. The director is an old friend. But more importantly, I run a foundation that helps exceptional talent find its rightful place in the world." Vivian stepped forward, her sharp features softened by genuine admiration. "What Thomas is trying to say, rather dramatically," she said, with a small smile, "is that we'd like to help you find your way back to music. Talent like yours shouldn't be waiting tables." Anna's hands began to tremble more visibly. "I have responsibilities," she said quietly. "My grandmother's medical bills, my sister's education. All details we can discuss," Mr. Winters said with a dismissive wave. "For now, I think your audience would appreciate one more piece." He gestured to the crowded restaurant where people were indeed looking expectantly at the piano. Lee appeared at Anna's side, looking both flustered and excited. "The owner just called," he whispered. "News is spreading on social media. People are showing up outside wanting to hear you play." Anna looked around in disbelief. The restaurant had become even more crowded, with people standing in the back and along the walls. Through the large windows she could see a small crowd gathering, on the sidewalk outside, peering in. "One more song," Mr. Winters encouraged. Play something that matters to you. Something from your heart. Anna turned back to the piano, feeling as though she was in a dream. Her life had changed in the span of 20 minutes, shifting beneath her feet like sand. She wasn't sure what tomorrow would bring, what Mr. Winters' offer really meant, or how her responsibilities would fit into this new possibility. But for now, for this moment, she could play. And after years of silence, that was enough. She closed her eyes, positioned her hands, and began Debussy's Clair de Lune, the first piece her mother had ever truly loved hearing her play. The notes of Clair de Lune lingered in the air like a beautiful memory. Anna opened her eyes to see a restaurant transformed. Strangers wiped away tears, couples leaned into each other, and even the usually stoic bartender stood motionless, entranced by what he had just witnessed. The moment felt suspended in time, as if no one wanted to break the spell her music had cast. Mr. Winters cleared his throat gently. "I think our talented pianist deserves a break," he announced to the room. "And I believe she still has tables to attend to." Reality crashed back around Anna. She was still at work. She still had responsibilities. Despite the extraordinary events of the past hour, she was still a waitress with a job to do. "Of course," she said, rising from the piano bench. Her legs felt slightly unsteady beneath her, adrenaline still coursing through her body. "Thank you for listening." As she moved away from the piano, diners reached out to touch her arm or shoulder, murmuring words of praise and encouragement. An older gentleman pressed a business card into her hand without a word. A woman with silver hair squeezed her fingers and whispered, "You made an old music teacher very happy tonight, dear." Lee intercepted her before she could return to her tables. "I've reassigned your section," he said, his usual stern expression replaced with something like respect. "Take 15 minutes to collect yourself. Then the owner wants you at the piano for the rest of the night." He hesitated, then added, "If you're willing." Anna blinked in surprise. "The rest of the night? But what about double pay, plus you keep all the tips from tonight?" Lee cut in. "The phone is ringing off the hook. People are asking if the piano waitress is still playing." He lowered his voice. "This is good for business, Anna. Very good." Before she could respond, Lee was pulled away by another server with questions about a large party being seated near the entrance. Anna stood alone for a moment, feeling strangely disconnected from her surroundings, as if she were watching herself in a movie. A hand on her elbow startled her. It was Vivian, Mr. Winters' associate, her sharp eyes now warm with something that looked like understanding. "Come sit with us for a moment," she said, guiding Anna toward table 7. "Thomas is ordering champagne to celebrate, and you look like you could use a glass of water and a chair." Anna allowed herself to be led back to the table where the evening had begun. Her mind was spinning. Just 2 hours ago, she had been taking their drink orders, worrying about making rent this month. Now they were treating her like she was one of them. Mr. Winters was on his phone when they approached, speaking in the clipped, authoritative tone of someone used to giving instructions. "Yes, right away. I don't care what time it is there. This is important." He looked up as Anna sat down, his face breaking into a rare, genuine smile. "There she is, the woman of the hour." A server, one of Anna's co-workers, appeared with a tray holding an ice bucket, champagne, and glasses. Anna recognized her as May, a college student who worked weekends. May gave Anna a wide-eyed look that clearly said, "What is happening?" Before professionally serving the champagne, "Water for our pianist, please," Vivian instructed, noticing Anna's flushed face. When May left, Mr. Winters leaned forward, his expression turning serious. "Now let's talk about tomorrow." "Tomorrow?" Anna repeated, accepting the glass of water Vivian handed her. "Your future doesn't need to wait," Mr. Winters said firmly. "I've just spoken with Jonathan Parker, the director of the City Symphony Orchestra. He's an old friend and always complaining about the lack of truly exceptional talent." He looked directly into Anna's eyes. "I described what I just witnessed. He's expecting us at 10 tomorrow morning." Anna nearly choked on her water. "The symphony tomorrow? But I have a morning shift and I've already spoken with your manager. Mr. Winters interrupted, gesturing toward Lee, who was watching their table from across the room. He's agreed to give you the day off, with pay. Anna set down her water glass carefully, trying to gather her thoughts. Everything was moving too fast. Mr. Winters, I appreciate what you're trying to do, but I can't just drop everything and become a pianist again. My life is complicated. Call me Thomas, please. He took a sip of champagne, studying her over the rim of his glass. And I understand complicated lives better than most. Tell me about your sister and grandmother. Anna hesitated, unused to talking about her personal life with strangers, especially wealthy ones. But something in his direct gaze made her feel he genuinely wanted to understand. My sister Lily is 18 now, she began slowly. She's smart, really smart. Got accepted to 3 universities with partial scholarships, but even with that, the costs are... She shook her head. She's at community college now, working part-time at a coffee shop. She wants to be a doctor. And your grandmother? Vivian prompted gently. She raised us after my parents died. Anna continued, twisting her napkin in her lap. She's 79 with heart problems and arthritis. The medical bills keep coming and her insurance doesn't cover much. She refuses to be a burden, but she can barely get around the apartment some days. Thomas and Vivian exchanged a look that Anna couldn't quite interpret. Then Thomas pulled out his phone again, tapped the screen a few times, and handed it to her. This is my foundation's website, he explained. The Winters Arts and Education Fund. We provide scholarships, grants, and support to exceptional individuals facing exceptional challenges. Anna scrolled through the site, seeing photos of young musicians, dancers, scientists, and artists. Each had a story attached, stories of talent nearly lost to poverty, illness, family responsibilities, or lack of opportunity. We don't just hand out money, Vivian explained, her professional demeanor returning. We create pathways, education, healthcare, housing, mentorship, whatever it takes to remove the barriers between talent and opportunity. Anna handed the phone back, her hands slightly shaky. And you want to... what? Include me in this program? Thomas leaned forward, his eyes intense. Anna, do you know how rare what you just did is? To not touch a piano for years and then play Liszt like you've been practicing daily? People train their entire lives and never achieve that level of musicality. He shook his head in wonder. Talent like yours is a gift to the world. Letting it go to waste would be a tragedy. Around them, the restaurant had returned somewhat to normal. Diners were eating again, though conversations frequently turned to the remarkable performance they had witnessed. Outside, the small crowd that had gathered was dispersing, though a few people still peered through the windows occasionally. I don't know, Anna said honestly. It feels like a dream, like I'll wake up tomorrow and be back to normal life. Vivian smiled, a genuine warmth transforming her business-like features. That's precisely why we want you to meet Jonathan tomorrow, to show you this doesn't have to be just one magical night. Thomas raised his champagne glass. To new beginnings, he said, motioning for Anna to take her glass, and to music that changes lives. Reluctantly, Anna raised her water glass to meet his toast. As they clinked glasses, Lee appeared at her side. Sorry to interrupt, he said, not sounding sorry at all. But people are asking when you'll play again. The owner says to tell you he's adding a $100 bonus for each additional half hour at the piano tonight. He glanced at his watch. We close in 3 hours. Anna looked from Lee to Thomas and Vivian, feeling pulled in different directions. The practical part of her saw the money. $300 extra plus tips, enough to cover her grandmother's next doctor's appointment. But another part, a part that had been silent for years, yearned to continue this conversation, to explore the possibility that her life could change. Go play, Thomas said, reading her expression. We'll talk more later. Music first, always music first. Relief and gratitude washed over Anna. Thank you, she said simply, standing up. For understanding. As she walked back to the piano, she felt lighter somehow, as if a weight she had carried for years had begun to lift. The restaurant hummed with anticipation as she approached the instrument. This time she didn't hesitate. This time she belonged there. She sat down, adjusted the bench, and placed her hands on the keys. What should she play now? Something that spoke of possibility, of doors opening after being long closed. Her fingers found Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue, the jazz-influenced classical piece that had always made her feel alive with its energy and optimism. As the opening clarinet glissando translated to piano keys under her hands, she saw Thomas watching her from across the room, a satisfied smile on his face. For the next hour, Anna played without pause, moving from Gershwin to Rachmaninoff to Chopin. Each piece flowed naturally into the next, as if her hands were remembering an old conversation with the keyboard. The restaurant remained full, with new customers arriving just to hear her play. Waiters moved quietly between tables, serving food and drinks almost apologetically, as if sorry to disturb the makeshift concert. Between pieces, Anna caught glimpses of her life as it had been just hours earlier. May balancing a tray of drinks, Lee directing servers, regulars at the bar nursing their usual orders. It all looked strangely distant now, like looking at a familiar photograph and noticing details you'd never seen before. When she finally paused for a break, her fingers tingling pleasantly from the exertion, the restaurant burst into applause, once more. Anna smiled and gave a small, awkward bow from her seat. As the applause faded, she noticed Thomas approaching, phone in hand. "That was magnificent," he said, his voice low enough that only she could hear. "Jonathan just watched a video I sent him of your Liszt performance. He's canceled his morning meetings. Says he'll have a piano ready and waiting at 9:30 tomorrow." He placed his hand briefly on her shoulder. "The world's about to change for you, Anna. Are you ready?" Anna looked up at him, this stranger who had walked into her life and turned it upside down in a single evening. Was she ready? Could anyone be ready for a second chance they'd stopped believing in years ago? "I think so," she said finally, surprising herself with the steadiness in her voice. "Yes, I'm ready." Anna barely slept that night. Her tiny apartment, normally so quiet, seemed filled with music only she could hear, melodies and harmonies that had been locked away for years now flowing freely through her mind. Her fingers tapped restlessly on her bedsheets, playing invisible keys. At 6 a.m, she gave up on sleep and made coffee. The kitchen was cramped but neat, with faded yellow curtains her grandmother had sewn years ago. Anna leaned against the counter, cradling her mug in both hands, trying to process everything that had happened. Last night, after the restaurant closed, the owner himself had appeared, a man Anna had seen only twice in her 5 years working there. He had counted out her pay in cash, adding a generous bonus that made her hands tremble as she accepted it. "You brought in more business in one night than we usually see in a week," he had said, his usual gruff manner softened with something like respect. "People were calling for reservations just to hear you play. I want to talk about making this a regular thing." Now, as early morning light filtered through the curtains, Anna tried to make sense of the road ahead. In just a few hours, she would be meeting with the director of the City Symphony Orchestra, an opportunity that seemed impossible yesterday. Her phone buzzed with a text. It was Lily, her younger sister. "Just got off night shift. May called me. Said you were amazing on the piano last night and some rich guy wants to help you. Call me when you wake up. So proud of you, sis." Anna smiled, feeling a surge of warmth. Lily had been too young to really remember their parents or understand what Anna had given up. To Lily, her older sister was just the person who always made sure there was food in the fridge and bills were paid on time. The person who came to school events even when exhausted from double shifts. The sister who had pushed her to apply for scholarships even when it seemed pointless. Her phone rang suddenly, startling her. Unknown number. "Hello?" she answered cautiously. "Anna? This is Vivian Chen from last night. Thomas asked me to check if you need transportation to the Symphony Hall this morning." Anna hesitated. She had planned to take the bus. That's very kind, but a car will pick you up at 9, Vivian continued efficiently. "The driver's name is Paul. Wear whatever you're comfortable in. Jonathan is interested in your playing, not your wardrobe." Before Anna could protest, Vivian added in a softer tone, "This is a big day. Let us make it a little easier." After hanging up, Anna went to check on her grandmother. The door to the small bedroom was partially open. Inside, her grandmother was already awake, sitting up in bed with her reading glasses on, a worn paperback in her hands. "I heard you come in late last night," her grandmother said, looking up with a smile. "Busy shift?" Anna sat on the edge of the bed, suddenly emotional. "Something happened at work, Grandma, something unexpected." She took her grandmother's hand, noticing how thin and papery the skin felt, how the veins stood out blue against the pale surface. "I played the piano last night." Her grandmother's eyes widened. "Oh, my dear." She squeezed Anna's hand. "How did it feel? Like coming home?" Anna whispered, tears threatening. "Like finding a piece of myself I thought was gone forever." For the next half hour, Anna told her grandmother everything. About Mr. Winter's challenge, the standing ovation, the offer to meet with the symphony director. Her grandmother listened intently, occasionally wiping away tears of her own. "Your mother would be so proud," she said when Anna finished. "She always said your music was a gift too precious to stay hidden." "But what about you and Lily?" Anna asked, voicing the concern that had kept her awake. "If I pursue this, if something actually comes of it, there would be training, practice, maybe travel. I can't just abandon my responsibilities." Her grandmother's face grew serious. "Anna, listen to me. When your parents died, you stepped up, in ways no 18-year-old should have to. You set aside your dreams to take care of us." She cupped Anna's cheek with a weathered hand. "But forcing you to choose between your gift and your family, that would break my heart. We'll figure it out together, whatever happens today." By 8:30, Anna was dressed in the best outfit she owned: black pants, a simple blue blouse, and the one pair of decent shoes she kept for job interviews. She had practiced for an hour on an imaginary keyboard drawn on the kitchen table, her muscle memory coming back stronger with each passing minute. At precisely 9 o'clock, her phone buzzed with a text. "Your car's outside." Anna looked out the window to see a sleek black car parked in front of her apartment building, a sight so out of place in her neighborhood that a couple of kids had stopped their game to stare at it. The driver, a middle-aged man with kind eyes, held the door for her. "Good morning, miss, I'm Paul. Mr. Winters asked me to make sure you arrive in comfort." The drive to Symphony Hall took 30 minutes through morning traffic. Anna sat quietly in the back seat watching the city transform around her. From her working-class neighborhood with its small convenience stores and laundromats, to the gleaming downtown area with its high-rises and cultural centers. Symphony Hall stood majestically in the arts district, its classical columns and wide steps projecting permanence and tradition. Anna had passed by many times but had never been inside. The ticket prices were far beyond what she could afford. As Paul pulled up to the entrance, Anna's courage nearly failed her. What was she doing here? What if yesterday had been a fluke, a moment of muscle memory that couldn't be repeated? "Miss?" Paul had opened her door and was waiting patiently. "Mr. Winters asked me to walk you in. He's already inside." The lobby of Symphony Hall was all polished marble and crystal chandeliers. Their footsteps echoed as Paul led her through to a side door marked Administrative Offices. A young woman with a tablet greeted them. "You must be Anna," she said warmly. "They're waiting for you in the rehearsal hall. Right this way." They followed her down a corridor lined with photographs of orchestras and soloists throughout the decades. Anna's heart pounded harder with each step. The assistant stopped at a set of double doors and gestured for Anna to enter. The rehearsal hall was a large, acoustically perfect room with a high ceiling. At its center stood a magnificent concert grand piano, its lid raised, gleaming under the lights. Around it were gathered several people, including Thomas Winters and a tall, silver-haired man Anna assumed must be Jonathan Parker, the director. Thomas spotted her first. "Ah, there she is," he called out, walking over to greet her. "Anna, welcome to Symphony Hall. I want you to meet Jonathan Parker, our esteemed director." The silver-haired man approached, studying her with intelligent eyes. "So you're the waitress who made Thomas miss dessert last night," he said with a slight smile. "He sent me videos of your playing at 3 different times, each with increasingly urgent messages." Anna felt herself blushing. "It's an honor to meet you, sir. I'm afraid Mr. Winters might have oversold my abilities." Jonathan raised an eyebrow. "I've known Thomas for 20 years. He's many things, but easily impressed is not one of them." He gestured toward the piano. "Shall we find out if the videos did you justice?" Anna moved toward the instrument, aware of every eye in the room, following her. This piano was even finer than the one at the restaurant, a true concert grand worth more than she would earn in years. She sat down, adjusted the bench, and looked up at Jonathan. "What would you like me to play?" "Start with something you love," he suggested. "Then I have a few pieces in mind to test your range." Anna took a deep breath and began playing Beethoven's Pathétique Sonata. From the first powerful chords, she knew this instrument was special, responsive to her lightest touch, capable of thunderous bass and crystalline high notes. She lost herself in the music, forgetting the audience, forgetting where she was. When she finished the first movement, she looked up to see Jonathan watching her with intense concentration. "Bach," he said simply. "Prelude and Fugue in C minor." Anna nodded and began playing the complex, mathematically precise piece. Bach had always challenged her, requiring perfect technique and clarity. As her fingers navigated the intricate patterns, she felt rusty in places but found her way through, muscle memory serving her well. Next came Chopin, then a modern piece Anna had never played before. Jonathan placed the sheet music in front of her and asked her to sight read. This was harder. Her sight reading skills had deteriorated from lack of use, but she managed to capture the essence of the composition, if not every note, perfectly. After nearly an hour, Jonathan held up his and "Enough," he said, but not unkindly. He turned to Thomas. "May I speak with you privately?" The two men stepped outside, leaving Anna alone with Vivian and 2 other people she hadn't been introduced to. The silence stretched uncomfortably. "Water?" Vivian offered, handing Anna a bottle. "You did wonderfully." "Did I?" Anna wasn't sure. Jonathan's expression had been unreadable. Before Vivian could respond, the doors opened and the men returned. Jonathan came directly to Anna, his expression serious. "Your technique is understandably rusty," he began bluntly. "Your sight reading needs significant work. You've missed years of training that most professionals your age would have had." Anna's heart sank. She nodded, accepting the criticism. "And yet," Jonathan continued, his voice softening slightly, "there is something extraordinary in your playing, a musicality that can't be taught, an emotional connection to the piece that many technically perfect pianists never achieve." He sat down next to her on the bench. "I'd like to offer you a place in our mentorship program. It would mean intensive training, 5 hours daily with our resident pianists, rigorous technique drills, music theory classes. It won't be easy, and there are no guarantees of a position with the orchestra at the end." Anna stared at him, speechless. "Thomas has explained your situation," Jonathan continued. "The program includes a modest stipend, not wealth, but enough to live on while you train, and," he glanced at Thomas, "his foundation has offered to provide support for your family so you can focus on your development." Thomas stepped forward. "Your grandmother's medical needs would be covered, your sister's education funded, an apartment near the symphony for all of you if you wish. No strings attached. Even if the program doesn't work out, that support would continue." Anna felt dizzy with possibility. "Why?" she managed to ask. "Why would you do all this for someone you just met?" Thomas smiled, the same smile she had seen when she first began playing the night before. "Because in a world full of manufactured entertainment and auto-tuned perfection, genuine talent is rare and precious. Because music matters. Because second, chances should exist for those who deserve them." Jonathan stood up. "Take the day to think about it. This would be a complete change of life. A commitment to years of hard work with no certainty of success." He handed her his card. "Call me tomorrow with your decision." As Anna left Symphony Hall, Stepping back into the bright morning sunlight, she felt as though she were walking in a dream. The black car waited to take her home, but home now seemed like a place between two worlds, the life she had known and the one that had just opened before her. Paul held the car door open. "Where to, miss?" Anna thought for a moment. "The Golden Leaf Hotel restaurant, please. There's someone I need to speak with first." The Golden Leaf Hotel restaurant looked different in the daylight. Without the evening's warm lighting and busy atmosphere, Anna could see the worn spots on the carpet, the small scratches on the tables, the slight tarnish on some of the brass fixtures. Places she had cleaned and served for 5 years without truly seeing. Lee was at the host stand, reviewing reservation lists for the day. He looked up in surprise as Anna entered. "I didn't expect to see you today," he said, setting down his papers. "The owner's been trying to call you all morning. He wants to offer you a position as our regular pianist on weekend evenings. Good money." Anna smiled faintly. Yesterday, such an offer would have seemed like a miracle, a perfect solution to her financial struggles while reconnecting with music. Now it felt like a half measure, a compromise she no longer needed to make. "Is the piano unlocked?" she asked. "I'd like to play for a few minutes if that's okay." Lee nodded, gesturing toward the grand piano that had changed her life just hours earlier. "It's all yours. We don't open for lunch service for another hour." Anna walked to the instrument, running her fingers lightly over its surface. She sat down and began to play. Not a classical piece this time, but a simple, heartfelt melody her father used to whistle while he worked around the house. The notes echoed in the empty restaurant, filling the space with memories. After a few minutes, she felt a presence beside her. It was Mrs. Chen, the day shift hostess, an elderly woman who had always been kind to Anna. "I heard what happened last night," Mrs. Chen said softly. "Everyone is talking about it." She sat on a nearby chair, her eyes moist with emotion. "My mother was a pianist in the old country before the war. She always said music is not just something we do. It's something we are." Anna's fingers continued moving across the keys as Mrs. Chen spoke. "I've been offered a chance to train with the symphony," she confessed. "A real chance to become the musician I once dreamed of being." Mrs. Chen clasped her hands together in delight. "You must take it. Such opportunities come once in a lifetime, if at all." "But my family," Anna began, the familiar weight of responsibility pressing on her heart. "My grandmother, my sister." "Will be proud," Mrs. Chen finished firmly. "Family is not truly served by sacrifice that kills the spirit." She reached out to touch Anna's shoulder. "My mother gave up her music to feed our family during hard times. She never played again. In her old age, she told me her greatest regret was not finding a way to keep music in her life." Anna's playing slowed, then stopped. She looked around the restaurant one last time, seeing it not as a workplace, but as the unlikely stage for her second chance. "I need to give notice," she said finally, "the proper way." Mrs. Chen smiled. "Lee is in the office. I'll watch the door." 30 minutes later, Anna stepped out of the Golden Leaf Hotel for what felt like the last time. Her resignation had been accepted with surprising grace, partly due to the owner's hope that she might still play special events, and partly due to the generosity of Thomas Winters, who had apparently left a substantial finder's fee for the EU establishment that had discovered her. The black car was still waiting, Paul leaning patiently against the driver's door. "Ready to go home, miss?" "Yes," Anna said, feeling a new certainty in her voice. "But I need to make one stop on the way." 20 minutes later, they pulled up in front of a small coffee shop near the community college. Through the window, Anna could see her sister Lily, in her green apron, laughing with a customer as she made a complicated drink. At 19, Lily had their mother's quick smile and their father's determined chin. Anna entered the shop, the bell above the door announcing her arrival. Lily looked up, her expression changing from professional friendliness to surprise. "Anna, what are you doing here?" She glanced at the clock. "Aren't you supposed to be at that big audition or whatever?" "I was. It's done." Anna gestured toward a quiet corner. "Can you take a break? I need to talk to you." 5 minutes later, the sisters sat across from each other, steaming cups between them. Anna told Lily everything. The symphony director's assessment of her playing, the offer of training, the foundation's support for their family. So basically, this rich guy is going to pay for my college and grandma's medical bills just because you can play piano really well? Lily shook her head in disbelief. That's like something from a movie, not real life. I know, Anna agreed. I keep waiting to wake up. But it's real, Lily. The question is, would you be okay with it? With moving to a new apartment near the symphony, with me practicing for hours every day? Our lives would change completely. Lily stared at her sister for a long moment, then reached across the table to grasp her hand. Are you kidding me? Anna, do you have any idea how many nights I've lain awake feeling guilty because you gave up everything for us? How many times I've seen you come home with sore feet and that fake smile that doesn't reach your eyes? Tears welled in Lily's eyes. You've been taking care of everyone else since you were 18. It's time someone took care of you for a change. Outside the coffee shop, the light had changed, casting long shadows across the sidewalk. Anna checked her watch. I should get home to Grandma. You'll be there for dinner? Lily nodded. I'll bring dessert. We're celebrating tonight, no matter what you decide. The apartment felt different when Anna returned, not physically changed, but somehow altered by the possibilities that now filled it. Her grandmother was in her favorite chair by the window, crocheting a blanket for a neighbor's new baby. There, you are, she said, setting aside her work. How did it go? Anna sat on the footstool near her grandmother's feet, just as she had done as a child. Slowly, carefully, she explained everything that had happened at Symphony Hall, the offer from Jonathan Parker, the support from Thomas Winter's Foundation. But I wanted to ask what you think before I decide, she finished. This affects all of us. Her grandmother's hands, gnarled with arthritis but still nimble enough for her needlework, reached out to stroke Anna's hair. My sweet girl. Always thinking of others before yourself. She was quiet for a moment, her eyes distant with memory. Did I ever tell you what your grandfather said to me when I was afraid to marry him because my parents needed me at home? Anna shook her head. He said a bird was meant to fly. Those who truly love you would never clip your wings, even if they miss your song when you're gone. Her grandmother's eyes grew moist. Anna, your music is your flight. Don't let anything, even love for us, keep you grounded. That evening, the small apartment was filled with a warmth and energy it hadn't known in years. Lily brought home a cake from the bakery near her coffee shop. Their grandmother set the table with the good dishes, the ones that had belonged to Anna's mother, usually kept safe in the cabinet. As they ate dinner together, they talked about the future, not with the usual cautious planning for bills and necessities, but with hope and excitement. Lily described the pre-med program she could now apply for. Their grandmother admitted she'd love to live closer to the park, where she could feed the birds on nice days. After dinner, as they sat together with cups of tea, Anna's phone rang. It was Thomas Winters. I hope I'm not interrupting, he began. I just wanted to check if you had any questions about our offer. Vivian has prepared all the paperwork should you decide to accept. Anna looked at her sister and grandmother, both watching her with encouraging smiles. Actually, I've made my decision, she said. I'd like to accept the opportunity if it's still available. She could hear the smile in Thomas's voice. Excellent. Jonathan will be pleased. There's one more thing, though. A small surprise we arranged today. Could you and your family be ready in about 30 minutes? A car will pick you up. Before Anna could ask questions, he had hung up. She looked at her family in confusion. Apparently, we're going somewhere. Exactly 30 minutes. Later, Paul arrived with the black car. This time, it was large enough for all three of them. He drove them downtown, not to Symphony Hall as Anna expected, but to the City Concert Hall, the largest, most prestigious venue for classical music performances. What's going on? Anna asked, as Paul escorted them through a side entrance, down several corridors, and finally to a door marked Green Room. Mr. Winters asked me to bring you here. Paul replied with a small smile. He and Director Parker are waiting inside. The green room was elegant and comfortable, with plush sofas and refreshments laid out on a side table. Thomas and Jonathan rose to greet them as they entered. "Ah, the family," Thomas said warmly, shaking hands with Lily and Anna's grandmother. "I'm so glad you could join us on short notice." Jonathan approached Anna with an envelope. "Your official acceptance to the mentorship program," he said, handing it to her. "Training begins next Monday, but tonight we thought you might enjoy a little inspiration." He gestured toward another door. "The world-renowned pianist Elena Kuznetsova is performing tonight. We have a private box reserved for you." Anna's breath caught. Elena Kuznetsova was a legend, a pianist whose recordings Anna had worn out as a teenager, trying to emulate her emotional depth and technical brilliance. The concert was everything Anna had dreamed classical music could be. From their perfect seats, they watched Elena's hands dance across the keys, creating magic that brought tears to their eyes. The music washed over them. Rachmaninoff, Chopin, Beethoven, performed with a mastery Anna could only hope to achieve someday. During intermission, Thomas leaned over to Anna. "After the performance, Elena has agreed to meet you briefly. She started her career late too, after escaping political upheaval in her country. She understands the path you're about to walk." When the concert ended and the thunderous applause finally died down, they were escorted backstage. Elena Kuznetsova, still glowing from her performance, greeted Anna with unexpected warmth. "So you are the waitress with the gift," she said, her accent thick, but her English clear. "Thomas has told me your story." She took Anna's hands in hers, examining them as only another pianist would. Good hands, strong. But this, she touched Anna's heart. This is where the music truly lives. She spoke with Anna for several minutes, about the journey ahead, the challenges, the joys, the discipline required. As they prepared to leave, Elena pressed something into Anna's palm. "My lucky charm," she explained. "A small piano carved from wood from my homeland. It has been with me at every performance since I began. Now it will be with you as you begin again." Back in the car, heading home under a sky full of stars, Anna sat quietly between her grandmother and sister, the wooden charm warm in her hand. Tomorrow would bring paperwork and plans, apartment hunting and schedule making. The road ahead would be difficult, requiring hours of practice to rebuild her skills and catch up on lost years. But tonight, Anna felt only gratitude and wonder. 24 hours ago, she had been a waitress with buried dreams and endless responsibilities. Now she was a pianist with a future, surrounded by people who believed in her gift. As the car turned onto their street, Anna's grandmother took her hand. "Your parents would be so proud," she whispered. "Not because you'll play with the symphony someday, though I believe you will, but because when life gave you a second chance, you were brave enough to take it." Anna looked out at the night sky, thinking of the strange, wonderful path that had led her here. All because a wealthy man had issued a challenge, and she had found the courage to accept it. The wooden piano charm rested in her palm, a tangible reminder that sometimes life's most beautiful music comes after the longest silence.